We all know how bad plastic bags are for the environment.
They clog up the oceans, they hurt the animals, and they never break down. They suck.
And even if every single plastic bag maker in the whole world stopped making them right now, we'd still have billions and trillions of the damn things to do something with.
So let's do something with them. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful website to help run your business.
We are all about turning waste materials into something new.
Since we've already proven to you guys that you can take bottle tops and turn them into something awesome, we want to show you how you can do exactly the same thing with plastic bags.
In order to do this, we're going to take thin, flimsy plastic bags and turn them into a tough, flexible sheet.
And it's way easier than you might think. You're likely to have all this at home already. Here's what you're going to need.
A cutting mat, a straight edge, a knife or some sharp scissors, some baking paper, some flat boards to protect your table, a standard clothes iron, and of course some plastic bags.
While you can absolutely use your regular household iron for this, we do recommend getting a separate one, just in case you get any melted plastic onto the iron itself, which you then use to accidentally ruin some of your clothes.
For the plastic bags, you're going to want to find some that are made from low density polyethylene or LDPE.
And just when you thought plastic bag manufacturers couldn't get any worse, we couldn't find a single recycling logo on any of the carrier bags that we collected. Shame. Shame.
But never fear, we are going to show you a way where you can tell which bags are going to work and which bags won't.
Grab your bag and try and stretch it apart. If it stretches, then you're good to go. If it doesn't, or if it tears, then you can't use that plastic.
Carrier bags, bin liners and cereal box inserts are all great sources of LDPE that will work for this method, whereas things like fruit packaging and crisp bags are unfortunately no good.
Once you have a pile of plastic, it's time to cut it up. We like to do this as you can control the aesthetic of your material much easier, and you can also separate out those bits with text and logos on so they're not on a finished face.
To maximise the amount of material you can get from one plastic bag, cut off the sides and lay it out into one long flat piece. Some bags have reinforcement pieces around the handles. If so, peel these off, but make sure you keep them to one side if they're stretchy plastic.
Next, cut your bag into strips and then smaller pieces using a knife or scissors. You can also take out any plastic with printing on and keep these separate, but don't throw it away, it's all usable.
To prep our surface for ironing, we wrapped a piece of scrap plywood with some baking paper and we taped it in place to make sure this didn't slide around.
We found that you want your plastic sheet to be about 4 or 5 layers thick to make sure it's strong enough to work with. A good way to build this up is to start with a base colour. For this we used a black bin liner.
On top of this, we used some of the plastic that we cut away earlier, which had all of the logos and text on. Since it won't be seen because it will be between the 2 black layers, it's the perfect material to thicken up the sheet.
Once it's all laid out fairly evenly, place another layer of baking paper on top and then grab your iron.
It won't take much to fuse the pieces of plastic together, so go over once or twice at a nice steady pace.
We added a second layer of black and then pressed it again in the exact same way. To prevent the sheet from curling up too much as it cooled, we pressed it down just for a few seconds with another scrap board.
After this layer, we started to build up what would be the finished face of the sheet, so we used all the text-free plastic to achieve the look that we wanted.
You can essentially build this up as much or as little as you want. In the end, we went for about 6 layers for this sheet. The nice thing about this is that if you have a spot that's a bit thin or doesn't look quite the way you want it, you can just go back and add some more.
After the last iron, we used that scrap board just to flatten the sheet out, and then we trimmed all the edges nice and square. Don't forget, all of those scraps can be kept and used for more sheets.
After you cut the excess off, just check those edges to make sure they're nice and sealed. If you spot any gaps, just pop the baking paper back on and then seal them shut.
So in total, we spent a couple of hours making a bunch of different sheets, and we found a load of little tips that might help you.
We tested a load of different iron temperatures, but the best technique we found was to whack it up to full heat and then speed up or slow down with your passes as necessary. You'll find that the plastic will shrink as it's heated. Some will shrink more than others, but they all shrink. Be aware of this and make the sheet bigger than it needs to be so you can trim it back a little bit later on.
Make sure your iron doesn't have any water in it. You want a nice dry heat for this process. We tried using some compostable food bin liners for one of our sheets, but we did find that these were much thinner than the other bags we used. We did manage to get a nice looking sheet from it in the end. However, if you do use this, try and make sure you don't have the thick and thin plastics together, as you might melt all the way through the thinner stuff whilst trying to heat the thicker stuff.
Some of the bags had patterns on that we cut out separately. We used this rose pattern to make a feature on a new sheet and used some dark green to add some more leaves around it. The shrinkage from the heat actually gave the leaves a really natural look, and the colour match was pretty much spot on.
So once we made a handful of different coloured sheets, we were ready to make something out of them.
But before we do that, we want to tell you about the wonderful sponsor of this video, Squarespace.
We love being able to tell you about products that we genuinely use and love, and Squarespace is absolutely one of these.
We use them for our website and online shop, and honestly, we couldn't be happy with our choice.
Creating a website from scratch can be a super daunting task, but using Squarespace's website builder with customizable templates and pre-built layouts takes out all of the stress.
They have beautiful templates for all different types of content that you can think of, including galleries, shop faces, blogs, calendars, and more.
And if you're super proud of a page that you've just made, you can simply duplicate it and edit the content to speed up the whole process.
But don't just listen to a couple of Muppets on YouTube, check it out for yourself with a free trial at squarespace.com.
And when you're ready to launch your beautiful new website, head to squarespace.com/brothersmake for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Right, let's go and make something.
We decided we wanted to try our hand at making some wallets from our sheets. This felt like a nice, easy beginner's project to get us started.
We found an Instructables template for a nice and simple flap wallet, which we really liked, so we printed and cut this out. We'll leave a link to the template in the description in case you want to try it out for yourselves.
We transferred the template onto one of our plastic sheets just by drawing around it, and then used a knife to cut around these lines.
We used the black and orange sheet first, as we thought this one would work really nicely, given that the inside face of the wallet would end up plain black.
wallet in its rough shape before we sewed it, we used a couple of small pieces of double-sided tape. But after we did this, we thought it would probably make more sense to simply use the iron to close these seams as well.
Then we used an ice pick to poke holes all the way around that seam, just to make the sewing a little bit easier.
We used a couple of pieces of scrap wood in our vise to act as a makeshift clamp before we started the process of hand stitching the wallet.
So we are by no means sewing experts, but after a little bit of research, we actually managed to make this work pretty well. We used 2 needles, one on each end of the thread, and then passed them back and forth all the way down.
We used some pliers to help pull the needles through and an ice pick to support the material as we pulled.
On the last hole, we passed the needle back through the previous hole and then heated up the tip of the ice pick to seal the thread.
It was actually a really simple process, which would have been even simpler with the sewing machine. And it was also good fun to do, so we ended up making a couple more wallets as well. Let's see how they all turned out.
So there you go, wallets made from used plastic bags.
We're pretty pleased with how these turned out. They're really tactile to hold and super lightweight.
Now that we've had a proper go at this, we've got loads of ideas for other things that we can make using this technique. But if you have any suggestions, please be sure to let us know.
There are a number of excellent videos that we watched to help us get started recycling plastic bags. Some of the best ones that we found were from Precious Plastic, Plastic Shed and iJessUp. We'll link all of them in the description below.
We know that us making a few wallets out of a handful of plastic bags isn't going to save the world.
But even if just a tiny fraction of you watching take this idea and try it for yourselves, maybe you show a few others the things that you've made, then we'd definitely be one step closer away from the throwaway culture that's ruining our awesome planet.
We want to say a massive thank you to our amazing brotherhood who support us via Patreon and help us keep the workshop lights on.
And of course a massive thank you to you for watching this video. If you made it this far, then hopefully that means something resonated with you.
If you want to see more of us, then head on over to our Instagram page or even check out our website where we sell 100% recycled plastic products made from recycled plastic that we have collected and cleaned ourselves.
See you on the next one, guys.
See you later. Shh.